Good evening. You're watching CVN, Clear Virtual Network, streaming from our California studio. I'm Fatima. Tonight, the world stands at the edge of a widening storm. Behind closed doors, alliances are shifting. Military assets are repositioning. Diplomatic language is hardening. This is not just another headline. From Tehran to Washington, from Tel Aviv to the corridors of global power, tensions between Iran, the United States, and Israel are escalating, and the consequences could reshape the Middle East and beyond. This is a special primetime report. Headlines suggest the possibility of military strikes. Lawmakers in Washington are debating constitutional limits. Israeli officials warn of existential threats. Iranian leaders insist their nuclear program is peaceful. But behind the noise lies a deeper question. Are we witnessing strategic brinkmanship? Or are we approaching a genuine point of no return? Inside Washington, a constitutional debate is unfolding. Under Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress, not the President, holds the authority to declare war. Recently, Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie introduced a war powers resolution aimed at preventing unilateral military strikes on Iran without congressional approval. Their argument centers on preventing executive overreach and avoiding another prolonged Middle East conflict without legislative consent. This debate is not merely procedural. It reflects deeper divisions within American politics about foreign intervention, military spending, and lessons learned from Iraq and Afghanistan. President Donald Trump, who remains a dominant political figure, has maintained a hardline stance on Iran. During his presidency, he withdrew the United States from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, arguing that the agreement failed to permanently restrict Iran's nuclear capabilities and did not address its regional activities. Since then, sanctions have intensified, covert operations have increased, and rhetorical confrontations have escalated. Recently, Trump suggested that potential military action, if taken, could be limited, while also urging Iran to negotiate what he described as a fair deal. The ambiguity of that language leaves room for interpretation and concern. On the Iranian side, officials continue to insist that their nuclear program is designed for civilian energy and research purposes. Iranian diplomatic leadership has publicly stated that recent negotiation rounds did not include a U.S. demand for complete zero enrichment. This distinction is critical. Under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, Iran argues it retains the right to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes. The United States and Israel, however, argue that enrichment capacity, even at lower levels, shortens the breakout time required to produce weapons-grade material. The technical debate over enrichment percentages, centrifuge numbers, and inspection protocols may sound abstract, but it lies at the heart of the crisis. Israel views the situation through a security-first lens. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly warned that a nuclear-capable Iran represents an existential threat to Israel's survival. Israeli defense doctrine emphasizes preemption and deterrence. Over the past decade, Israel has reportedly conducted covert operations targeting Iranian nuclear infrastructure and has carried out airstrikes against Iranian-linked positions in Syria. Israeli officials argue that waiting for diplomatic solutions could allow Iran to cross an irreversible nuclear threshold. From Tehran's perspective, such operations validate its argument that defensive capability is necessary for deterrence. Media narratives are amplifying tensions. Political commentator Tucker Carlson recently described a contentious experience while in Israel for an interview with U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Carlson questioned whether American officials prioritize U.S. strategic interests independently or align closely with Israeli policy objectives. His comments sparked debate across ideological lines. Some framed it as raising legitimate foreign policy concerns. Others criticized it as inflammatory rhetoric. The episode highlights how media voices increasingly shape geopolitical perception, sometimes accelerating polarization rather than clarifying facts. Beyond personalities and headlines lies the structural reality. Iran and Israel have been engaged in a shadow conflict for years. Cyber operations, targeted strikes, proxy engagements, and intelligence maneuvers form a continuous low-intensity confrontation. The United States remains deeply embedded in this dynamic due to its security commitments to Israel and its military presence across the Middle East. American troops stationed in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf could become targets if escalation occurs. Meanwhile, Iran maintains influence through regional actors in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, creating multiple potential flashpoints. The risk of escalation cannot be underestimated. Limited strikes often carry unpredictable consequences. A targeted attack on nuclear facilities could prompt retaliation against U.S. bases or Israeli territory. Disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant percentage of global oil shipments pass, could send energy markets into shock. Oil prices would likely surge, impacting economies far beyond the region. Financial markets react quickly to instability, and even short-lived confrontations can produce lasting economic ripple effects. At the same time, diplomacy has not entirely collapsed. Negotiation channels reportedly remain open through intermediaries in Oman and Europe. Diplomatic engagement often proceeds quietly, even when public rhetoric suggests hostility. Historically, back-channel communication has played a decisive role in de-escalating crises, from Cold War nuclear standoffs to regional ceasefires. Whether such channels can produce durable agreements in the current climate remains uncertain. Domestic politics also shape foreign policy decisions. In Israel, national security concerns strongly influence electoral outcomes. In Iran, internal debates between hardline and reformist factions affect the tone and flexibility of negotiations. In the United States, election cycles frequently intersect with foreign policy positioning. Tough rhetoric can resonate politically, but it may complicate diplomatic compromise. The intersection of domestic incentives and international strategy creates a volatile mix. The core question remains, is Iran an imminent military threat to the United States? Intelligence assessments vary in tone, but generally emphasize monitoring and containment rather than immediate invasion scenarios. Iran has not directly attacked U.S. territory. However, it has supported regional groups hostile to American and Israeli interests. Israel views that support as part of a broader encirclement strategy. The United States must balance deterrence, alliance commitments, and the risks of overextension. Two paths appear visible. One leads toward renewed nuclear constraints, inspection mechanisms, phased sanctions relief, and incremental confidence-building measures. The other leads toward miscalculation, retaliation, and potential regional war. Neither side publicly seeks full-scale conflict, yet strategic mistrust runs deep. History shows that wars often begin not with clear intent, but with misjudgment. Ultimately, this crisis is not solely about uranium enrichment levels or missile ranges. It is about power projection, deterrence credibility, alliance structures, and regional influence. It is about how far nations are willing to go to prevent perceived threats. And it is about whether diplomatic patience can withstand political pressure. The world has seen the costs of prolonged Middle East wars. Military interventions can topple facilities and delay programs, but they rarely eliminate underlying rivalries. Escalation carries human, economic, and geopolitical consequences that extend far beyond initial objectives. That is why the constitutional debate in Washington matters. That is why negotiations in neutral capitals matter. And that is why careful analysis matters more than viral outrage. As tensions continue to evolve, one fact remains clear: restraint requires as much strength as confrontation. The coming months will test whether regional actors and global powers can manage deterrence without sliding into open conflict. There are no simple villains or heroes in this equation, only competing national interests, strategic calculations, and uncertain outcomes. This video is produced for educational, journalistic, and informational purposes only. All information, statements, and analysis presented in this program are based on publicly available sources, including official government statements, press briefings, published media reports, publicly accessible interviews, academic research, and historical records available at the time of production. The content does not rely on classified, leaked, or confidential materials. The views expressed are analytical in nature and are intended to examine geopolitical developments, policy decisions, and international relations. This video does not promote violence, hostility, or discrimination toward any country, government, religion, organization, or community. Geopolitical situations evolve rapidly. Information may change as new public data becomes available. Viewers are encouraged to consult multiple credible sources and conduct independent research to form their own conclusions. This program does not provide legal, military, financial, or diplomatic advice. All trademarks, names, and references remain the property of their respective owners. Before we begin, consider this. If global tensions escalate tomorrow, will you understand what truly happened or only what went viral? At CVN, your one stop news network, we go beyond the headlines. We examine the power structures, the policy decisions, and the real world consequences shaping global events. Our focus is simple: verified information, responsible analysis, and clear context in a world often driven by noise. So, before we break down today's investigation, make sure you subscribe. Because informed decisions begin with accurate information. For more investigative reports, geopolitical analysis, and fact driven coverage, subscribe to CVN. Like this video, share it with your network, and stay connected as we continue delivering deeper insights and critical updates.